It's time to wake up. La la hello. La la hello. La la hello. La la hello. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. La la hello. La la hello. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Hello. Hi, and welcome to Wakey Wakey. This is the show where you get to share with the world your experience of your own personal awakening. Every week we interview somebody who's been an inspiration to us in the fields of expanding our minds. And this week I'm excited to say we have a wonderful, brilliant, incredible man joining us from the USA, Larken Rose, one of my favorite philosophers, voluntarists, and just general human beings. I just want to say thanks to you all for sending love and lots of comments and good vibes. And there's been a few insults this week, which has been fantastic as well. They make me laugh and, you know, they help me improve. And so I like to hear from everyone. I just want to also thank TPV for being here, for enabling me to do this show. It's been a really great experience for me here at TPV. So later on in the show, we hope, with a bit of luck and love, to hear from some callers. But first, we are going to interview Larken. If you haven't heard of Larken Rose, it's about time you did, because he's fantastic. He's one of my another one of my favorite people in the whole world. And I've actually never met him, but I've spent countless hours listening to Larken and watching his videos and reading his words. And now, why have I spent so much time and listening to this guy, and I've never actually, I'm embarrassed to say, sent him a cent? Probably because I haven't had 10 spare dollars in the last 4 years living in a tent to buy one of his books, but I can't wait to read Larken's books. He's a writer, he's an author, he's an amazingly talented speaker. The thing about Larken is you spend about half an hour in his presence and you automatically become deprogrammed. He starts to make your mind spin, and his arguments kind of beat any argument you could have in your head or rationale for us staying the way we are staying. We know that humanity must evolve to live by the non-aggressive principle. That's hopefully what we know anyway. That's where I believe we're headed. So yeah, if you want to hit me, I can hit you back. But in general, I can't hit you just to take money off you or control you or direct your actions. So what we need to do, Larken is the kind of person who makes it easy for us to see, is we need to dissolve all of the state authority and each become voluntarists, make everybody and everything that we do in society voluntary. What is a voluntarist? I think it's kind of a sweet new word for anarchists. Although anarchy is not a dirty word to anybody who knows really what the word means. The word means no rulers, but it doesn't mean no rules. Of course, we all still live under natural law and the laws of the universe, karma, however you call them. Treat others how you'd like to be treated, and hopefully the best will come back. So a question for everyone is, do you live by the non-aggressive principle? I would say you do, you know, if you think it's okay for me to smash my coffee cup over your head if you don't give me your sandwich, then either you're a 4-year-old, in which case you better tune out now because I like to swear a lot, or maybe you're a statist. Yes, I said statist, although it does sound a lot like a sadist. Anarchy means to be governed over, ruled over by some elite group who I'm yet to meet one of them. So anarchy means no rulers. So of course we still live under these natural laws, but we learn how to treat each other, how we'd like to be treated. So before this show is up, I think if you're not a self-described anarchist or a voluntarist, you probably are already anyway. And I'd like us all to strive to live by the non-aggressive principle eventually, except those of us who still put on uniforms or wigs and think it's okay to use a violence over people on behalf of the machine called the state. Well, I actually think it's time that we all look at ourselves a little bit. Anyway, let's cut to some of Larken's wonderful work. We're going to go to this short clip and then we'll be speaking live with Larken.
Once upon a time, there were 100 million people. They had different interests, different beliefs, different occupations, but for the most part, they got along pretty well. Then one day, a gang of a few hundred people showed up. Need to zoom in some more to see them. I know they're there somewhere. Zoom in. There they are. And this gang of a few hundred said to the throng of 100 million, "From now on, you all have to give us a cut of everything you earn."
This is an accurate graphical comparison between the number of American taxpayers and the number of U.S. congressmen.
And the throng said, "Gosh, do we have to give you a cut of what we earn?" And the gang of a few hundred said, "Yes, you have to." And the throng said, "Well, okay, I guess we have to." And one little troublemaker asked, "What if we don't?" The gang of a few hundred didn't like this and said, "If you do not comply, we shall unleash upon you our legions of enforcers." And the throng cried, "Oh no, please don't. We will comply, we will pay."
This is an accurate graphical comparison between the number of American taxpayers and the total number of IRS employees.
Time went by, and the gang of a few hundred said, "Now we want more of what you earn." And this kept happening over and over again, until eventually some of the throng were paying almost half of what they earned to the gang. Whenever the gang demanded more, the throng would say, "Golly, we're already having a tough time. Do we really need to give you even more?" And the gang always said, "Yes, you must, or we shall unleash our legion of enforcers." Now the gang of a few hundred was getting trillions of dollars every year, spending it on wars and pyramid schemes, giving away goodies to their friends, buying influence, and doing lots of other things. And some of the throng started saying, "We don't really like the war you're waging with the money we give you. Do we really have to be paying for that?" And the gang said, "Yes, we demand it. Don't make us send out our legion of enforcers." And some of the throng said, "You're taking our money and giving it to huge corporations and giant banks, and some people who just don't want to work. A lot of these things we don't like." And the gang said, "We don't care. We will decide how to spend it. You just do as you're told, or else." And the throng said, "Okay, I guess we have to." But eventually the throng got so fed up, so angry, that they took a drastic step. One day they said to the gang, "We don't like what you're doing. We want a new gang." And after pouring a huge amount of time and money into the effort, they replaced the gang with a new gang. Then the throng pleaded with the new gang, "Now, at long last, can we keep our own money, or at least keep more of it?" And the new gang said, "Sorry, but after much discussion, we've decided that you can't. You have to keep giving us what you've been giving, in fact, a little bit more than before." The throng was distraught and said, "This is dreadful. But after all, what choice do we have? I mean, they say we must comply, and they have that scary legion of enforcers. We're powerless against them. We'd better just do as we're told." So they did as they were told, got poorer and poorer, and lived miserably ever after. But after all, what else could they have done? What power could this throng possibly have compared to this gang of a few hundred and their enforcers? What chance would this thing have against this thing? How could these 100 million people ever hope to successfully resist the awesome power of this tiny little dot? In case anyone missed this, let's review. Here's them. Here are their enforcers. Here's us. Them, us. Them, us. Does anything about this seem just a little strange to you? Are you perhaps wondering, why does the throng need the permission of the dot to do anything? Why do these people feel the need to ask this tiny little dot if they can keep more of what they earn? Why would they spend year after year literally begging for lower taxes from this little dot? Is this dot just really darn intimidating? Is it very persuasive in its reasoning? To be blunt, why would this throng give a rodent's backside what this tiny little dot wanted? The fact that this tiny dot has the gall to issue such demands to such a throng is pretty startling in and of itself. But what is far more amazing is that the throng obeys this minuscule little parasitic gang of control freaks. What could possibly explain this? Let's ask the dot. This is how it works. When we, the dot, take your money and spend it on things you don't like, we're representing you. In fact, though you're not allowed to actually keep your own money, you're allowed to decide which little dot will steal half of what you earn. So that really means that you're in charge and that you're agreeing to give us your money. In fact, we, the dot, are serving you when we take your money and spend it on things you don't like. And so you should thank us and treat us with great respect and honor for having robbed you on your behalf for your own good in order to serve you by doing things you don't want us to do. So there you have it. I hope that cleared everything up for you.
If you're not entirely satisfied with the dot's explanation of things, you really should read the book The Most Dangerous Superstition, available now at Amazon.com.
Okay, Larken, what a pleasure it is to see you and hear you and have you on our show.
It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, and how are you today?
Very good, very good. Been running around in circles doing stuff, but all set for a fun show.
I imagine that you are a pretty busy guy these days. Everybody wants a piece of you, am I right?
In different ways, I would say so. I'd say the feds want it a little differently than some of my supporters, but one way or another, yeah.
The feds aren't worried about you. They secretly love people like you. Everyone who wears a uniform is cheering for you as soon as they get home and take their shoes off.
Find that hard to believe, but I can hope.
Well, okay, so you're speaking from experience. You've experienced the violence of the state. You've had time taken off you. How long were you in jail for?
I got to be in a cage for a year. It was just over a year for not sending pieces of paper to the U.S. extortion racket known as the IRS.
And you know, we had Sherry Peel Jackson on a few weeks ago, and she got 4 years, so I don't know what the hell she did, but yeah.
Well, she was one of them, and she turned on them and grew a conscience, and she's an amazing person, and they really went after her because, you know, how dare you be one of the king's guards who turns around and says, I think the king is bogus.
Okay,
so
Larken.
They hated her even more than me.
You've given me goosebumps in the first 30 seconds. That's worth at least £5. And unfortunately, we're not paying you today, but thanks for doing this for us. So tell me how jail was just quickly. I don't want to dwell on this time in your life.
Well, I was in pretend jail. It was minimum security federal prison camp, they call it. Some people call it club fed. It's not that pleasant unless you're like famous and go to some special place. Mostly it was a gigantic, stupid waste of time. That's where they put all the people who everybody knows don't belong in prison.
Yeah.
There literally is an offense. They don't lock you in. If you walk away, they put you somewhere worse.
Yeah.
But there's no fights. It's not prison movie
No
stuff.
anal sex? Sorry. I'm sure there is. I mean, where isn't there?
Voluntary, there probably is there. I avoided that. And involuntary, no. That would be at the big place up the hill.
You don't have to share that much personal stuff with me, but I just like to be an idiot sometimes. Oh God, that's twice now I have to address anal sex on this show. I had a person write to me this week because I was talking about the Dalai Lama last week, saying that anal sex is bad, and someone was like, "You're aware it's the highest occult ritual?" And it's like, yeah, I'm going to respond to that person soon. I just got to get around to it. So anyway, Larken, tell me how you started to think for yourself.
Well, it was really annoying and uncomfortable and inconvenient. It was mainly a result of not liking to contradict myself when arguing with people. I was raised sort of conservative, constitutionalist, that sort of brand of statism. But I love to debate and I love to argue and I love to win arguments. And I found that if my own belief system was self-contradictory, I would stumble over myself and fall on my face. And I'd still, do my best and argue. And later I'd think, yeah, my position on those two things don't match. So it was really a process. My wife, Tessa, and I would talk about things all the time. And basically we nudged each other off the cliff of statism and realized, we whittled down, because a lot of people say, well, I want government that just does A, B, and C. And then we said, well, it actually shouldn't do C or B or A. Oops, it's gone.
Yeah.
We just whittled away the contradictions and found out that what is left, the only moral, rational, logical position is anarchism or voluntarism. Government, the concept, is inherently insane. I don't just mean it's a bad idea practically. I mean, it's easy to logically prove that it is a completely irrational, hugely destructive belief. And it took me years and years and years to realize that bleeding obvious, but eventually I got there to see there isn't such thing as a government that is on the side of humanity. There can't be.
Yeah. Well, it's becoming clearer by the day when you look at all of the false flags and the, mandatory vaccinations and the chemtrails and the GMO unlabeled foods and all of the ways that your government really doesn't actually care about you and is trying to extort from you all the time. I had a great argument for hours this morning with my darling best friend who's come over from Australia. And she's been saying to me, we just sort of went at it. And, she's younger than me, so she's coming at me with a lot of the arguments that I used to come at when I would argue with people, so it's been really good for me. And I did get to a lot of frustrated points, and I kept sort of going, well, just wait till Larken comes on. Because, she's saying, well, I'm glad my grandmother can have morphine, and I'm glad that I have police if something goes wrong. But I'm saying we don't have to stop helping each other. We don't have, there's still going to be bags of morphine around and people can still administer it just because we don't have a government, And it's sort of like we're all trained to think that if we don't have a government, we don't have anything. It's like going back to caveman times or something.
Right. People imagine that whatever government does today, if it disappeared, nobody would do it.
Yeah.
And in some countries, that includes feeding the people. Now, in the U.S., nobody thinks we'd all starve if government didn't, run food production, because we've seen a relatively voluntary system do that. But people are always scared to give up the next step. They think, well, protection, whether it's from scary foreign invaders or local crooks, well, government's always done that. So if it doesn't, nobody will and we'll all be killed. And it's just a matter of being immature. It's like, being in a kindergarten class and looking to the teacher. And if the teacher walks out of the room, what on earth do we do? Well, you grow up. Yeah. And then you start to think and act like human beings instead of subjects of a parasitical ruling class.
And we will use our own conscience and we will do what serves us best in the long run. This is what I was trying to explain. It's more painful for me to hurt somebody than for them to hurt me in a way. So I don't like to hurt anyone, and I've grown to be that way. I grew up with brothers. They used to hold me down on the floor and sit on my head and fart on my head. So I used to punch them. I used to hit them over the back of their legs with cricket bats. I was violent a lot when I was growing up because I had to fight, with my brothers and my cousins just to sort of survive. And I learned that it hurt me more to hurt my brother than to let them hurt me in a strange way.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, most people have, at least to some degree or another, there's a wide range obviously, have figured that out. In their daily lives, they already, even if they don't recognize the term, the non-aggression principle, they already abide by it in the vast majority of interactions they have with other people. But they've been taught that there's this magical exemption, that if you condone violence against somebody else by way of pushing buttons in a voting booth and crying to a congressman to do, then it's okay.
Yeah.
So and that's why I would ask people, like I would ask your friend, okay, you want somebody to have morphine. Do you think it would be justified for you to come to my house, point a gun at me and say, give me some money, I'm going to buy somebody some morphine? Because if you wouldn't do it yourself, why on earth do you feel good about voting for somebody else to do the exact same thing?
Yeah.
And that's all voting is. It's all government is. is an avenue through which people feel good about committing evil.
Yeah.
Because they're taught that if it's legal and if authority's doing it, that they're
okay.
magical and special and they can do other stuff.
Yeah.
And if people would just apply the morality they already understand to themselves, apply it to government, they'd realize government's always the bad guy. Let's not do things that way. It's always coercive. It's always parasitical.
Yeah, and it's always, it's cleverly sets up little contracts that we sign our lives away into, and before we know it, we do have a legal obligation because we actually complied with their paperwork and we signed ourselves into a contract. But if we can push that stuff away, ignore it, be too bored to open their letters or whatever, return to sender on all their contracts, then we start up this whole new sort of way of dealing with or responding to these threats, coercions, domination by this machine, really. Because it's never the people in government that really threaten you. It's the general big machine, isn't it? It's like, I guess, what happened to you? How did you end up in jail? Did they come to your house? Did they take you to court first? How did it end up?
There was a many-year-long adventure with the U.S. extortion racket, which included 12 armed fascists invading my house to look for evidence of the heinous crime of me not sending them pieces of paper after I told them, I stopped sending you pieces of paper and I'd like to meet with you and tell you why. So the story drags on for years and it's just ridiculous. And then eventually they put me on trial and they had to, the only question, I'll make this really brief because I don't much care about the legal issue.
Yeah.
But the short version is they had the burden of proof of demonstrating that I believed I was legally required to send in pieces of paper to file tax returns. Because everybody acknowledged that I didn't. I said I didn't. I explained why and all that. So it wasn't tax evasion. It wasn't, I was sneaking around and got caught. I was totally in their face the whole time and said, here's what I'm doing and here's why.
Yeah.
So here's this trial and everybody involved agreed that the one question is, did I believe I was required to file? Because there's something called willfulness where if you thought you were obeying the tax laws, they can still try to steal your money, but they're not supposed to prosecute you. So the one question was, what did I believe about my legal obligations? And the judge declared I wasn't allowed to show the jury anything I had written, play anything I'd ever said on the topic. So I had to show what I believe without referring to anything I had ever done.
Well, we don't actually want you to educate anyone or we're fucked. That's the way they sort of look at you.
Right, but to say, it's like somebody saying to you, tell me what you believe on this subject and prove it, only don't cite anything you've ever said or written about it.
Yeah.
What's left? How do you prove it?
Exactly. I have thousands of hours of organized words edited beautifully and eloquent and yeah, so this is really good, Larken. We have to go to a short break. I hope you can just hold out there for a moment, maybe a minute, and we'll come back. It's time to wake up. 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 Welcome back to Wakey Wakey. We are chatting with the infamous, wonderful, fabulous Larken Rose. So Larken, tell me, how did you, all of your work with all of your writing and all of your incredible videos, I'd imagine that you've reached the most people with the videos, because let's face it, we've all only got 10 minutes to learn anything. And if you can, you can show something in 10 minutes, like your tiny dot video, or a lot of your videos are fantastic. I'm allowed to rob you. If you're watching at home, get on Google. Google Larken's name, go on his YouTube channel, go to his website, larkenrose.com, order one of his books, the, what's it called, Larken, my favorite one, it's gone out of my head.
Most Dangerous Superstition.
The Most Dangerous Superstition.
That's the most important one.
That is so revered by everybody, and the people who I do know who've read it. I'm so lame, I haven't even read it before your article, this interview, but I am going to read it one day. But the people who I've met who've read it, they say that it's just wonderful the depth that you go into to explain your point. And I know that you go into those depths because of the confidence and the ease with which you express these simpler points, basically. I'll put it that way. So was it a big philosophical exercise for you? Is that why you write, or was it like your proof? It was your evidence that you could never take into a court, unfortunately, but it's out there for the world to see.
Well, this has nothing to do with the legal issue, really. It's just the concept of self-ownership. What I tried to do in my videos and in the Most Dangerous Superstition, which I held off writing for years because I knew it was going to be the most important thing I'd ever write and wanted to do the best job I possibly could.
And many people, I believe, say it's the best thing they've ever read. So, yeah, that's a pretty big call.
People say that.
Yeah.
I don't dare to say that. But really what it is my attempt to pass on the bleeding obvious that took me a decade or so to figure out. Because the truth in this case is very simple, very easy to prove. The only reason it takes so much effort is because most of us went through prolonged, in-depth indoctrination to believe in something that is completely irrational and bogus, namely the belief in authority. So demonstrate, and I often say that what I do is explain things that should be self-evident to any 7-year-old.
And they are once you explain them.
Right. And once you have the understanding, you think, how did I ever not know this? And how did I ever believe the convoluted pile of lies that statism depends upon?
Well,
and it really is a deprogramming.
I guess America's the same as Australia, is the same as England. It's like when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, it's like, this is a policeman. He's your friend.
You must do as he says.
Until you grow up and you're like walking along the street and they've got a problem with something you're doing or whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah, authoritarianism is plaguing the whole world. It comes in different flavors and different levels of severity, but the underlying belief is the same. I mean, and you go back long enough and the authority used to be the church. These days it's almost always the government, but the underlying belief and the insanity of it has always been the same, and it is the biggest threat to humanity. It's why I call it the most dangerous superstition, because that's all it is. The belief that you can have an obligation to obey somebody outside of yourself in spite of your own conscience. That's what the belief in authority is, that, well, they have the right to rule and I have the obligation to obey. And we call it law, and we call them lawmakers, and we call them government. We say it's authority, and we have law enforcers. All the mythology that goes along with it that rests on this one insane idea that I could ever have an obligation to do what I think is wrong. And that's one of the ways to disprove government. Unless you believe that you have an obligation to do what you think is wrong, you cannot be beholden to any outside authority. Because if it says do A and you think I should do B, you either choose evil or you choose good. And if you choose good, you're saying they're not authority over me. I don't have an obligation to obey. And poof, then you own yourself. And then you're an anarchist.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the world thinks you're insane.
Well, I always say all men do need to be, and women, we need to be governed either by our conscience or by the government. And so I choose my conscience because I've seen governments do terrible things throughout history to humankind.
Right. And I often point out to people, because they say, well, I don't trust people. I was like, oh, well, first of all, you don't trust people to govern themselves, but you do trust them to govern others, which is a little odd. But the question I constantly ask people is, all right, let's play a game. I will list the number of atrocities committed by human beings in the name of authority. You list the number of atrocities committed by people just acting on their own.
Yeah.
I'll start with the 200 million human beings who were murdered by their own governments in the last 100 years. Your move.
Charles Manson. Oh, that's right. He was mind controlled and handled, and he had yeah. Okay, so yeah, you win. Yeah.
I think I won by like 200 million.
Yeah, 199.99 million. I know, and that's the thing, is that I don't trust people either. I don't trust myself. I don't trust anyone anywhere. You know, my friend from Australia is here, and she's like, you know, she's scared for me because she's like, this is a terrorist organization, and, you know, there's a black van driving past my van, and she's like, who? And I'm like, well, I'm a bit scared too, but it's okay to not trust. It's okay to sort of live in a little bit of suspicion until you do trust, because then the trust that you have with the people you love is a really beautiful and warm and real thing.
Right, and a lot of people assume that because I'm an anarchist, it must mean I trust everybody. They say, well, it would work to have no government only if everybody's nice. And I say, well, the only thing I want to remove from society is the idea that some people have an exemption from morality. because that's what authority is. It's saying these people are allowed to do things that are bad.
And the rest of us aren't allowed to do those things because we don't have the right, but yeah.
Right, exactly. And to think that the logic of statism is just insane. It's, well, I don't trust people. I'm not sure everybody's going to be nice. So let's give some people permission to not be nice.
Yeah.
Because that'll somehow help. So it's not a matter of trusting people. I only just barely trust people to run themselves. As soon as somebody thinks that they are authority, as soon as they have a badge and a uniform and think they have special rights that the rest of us don't, that's the one I don't trust.
Yeah.
Because that type of person is the type of person responsible for 200 million deaths in the last 100 years.
It's that it's that kind of person that's actually can be a problematic personality type when it comes to giving them authority, right?
Yeah, sociopaths, are always first in line for a position of authority. The job description is boss people around and take their money. Who do you think's going to show up?
It's like, I don't like spiritual leaders who accept followers. I've always been that way. And it's very similar kind of energy to, I don't want to take orders from anyone who likes giving orders and is weaponized and wearing a bulletproof suit.
Right, and the beauty of the movement, if you want to call it that, of the growing number of people turning into voluntarists is we can lead by example. We can, make videos and write books and stuff to try to spread the idea. But this movement is not about, hey, everybody, come join me and be part of my group. It's, hey, everybody, be free. Run your own life. You own yourself. I don't want followers. If somebody is my follower, it's because they're not paying attention to what I'm saying. I'm saying you own yourself, follow yourself.
Oh, you're so wise, Larken.
So to contrast that with every single political movement and a whole bunch of religious movements that say, if you will just come obey me, I'll make everything okay. And I'm saying, if you obey me, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Obey your own conscience. Don't obey anybody outside of your own conscience, because nobody is ever going to violently control you for your own good. And every political campaign is somebody saying, give me power over you for your own good. And the fact that anybody ever votes means that they actually believe that telling somebody they're allowed to violently dominate you is going to improve your life, which is just insane. But that's what we were raised with, and it's still what most people think. And I just say, run your own life. You own yourself. I don't own you. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. I don't want to be in charge of you. I certainly don't want you to be my follower. I want you to pay attention just long enough to realize you don't need to be anybody's follower.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I think we're going to another break. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. And we're back with Larken Rose today, speaking about being a voluntarist, governing yourself by your own conscience above all other authority. So, Larken, continue. This is where you consider yourself more of a philosopher than a rebel or an anarchist or anything. It's just thoughts we're playing with.
Right, and to me, it feels weird. I never call myself a philosopher because this, so many things of philosophy, people think, oh, big, complicated stuff I can't possibly understand. And to me, this is what makes it challenging for people to think about, is that it's so simple,
It is.
but it contradicts tons of indoctrination. I mean, the idea of self-ownership, if you ask somebody, who owns you? Almost everybody says, well, I guess I own myself. Great. If you would just grasp that concept and extrapolate from there, you would be an anarchist too. Because you'd realize, wait, if I own myself, I guess a ruling class doesn't have a right to forcibly take my stuff to do stuff I don't like with it.
Yeah.
And it just all flows from there. If I own myself and you own yourself, I can't delegate to somebody else a right I don't have. If I don't get to rob you, I can't delegate that right to a politician. So I guess government doesn't have any rights that I don't. It all flows from the most simple, basic concepts. And again, the only reason I'm out there doing this is to combat the amazingly convoluted, irrational mythology and indoctrination that we go through to be taught to believe in authority.
Yes.
And the truth is painfully simple, which is why my videos are usually, any 7-year-old could go, well, duh, I get this.
Yeah.
It's not like really intricate logic and stuff. It's so obvious that I think one of the reasons a lot of them are popular and spread around, because people watch it and go, that's so obvious and I don't quite know what to do about it, because it conflicts with what we're taught.
It reminds me of my mum. She's always like, it's common sense. And it's like, this is what this stuff is. It's common, it's our sense that we commonly hold, that we all hold of what's the truth.
Right.
And we're not talking about letting somebody with an axe chop up our family while we sit there and watch and wait for the police to come. We're not saying that if somebody's committing violence on somebody else that there's no retribution. But what we are suggesting, I think, is that people can live and let live. And if you're not causing harm or problems for anybody else, then what right does anybody have to extort it from you and everything else?
Right. One of the most simple ways to say it is, if it would be wrong for you to do something, don't ask somebody else to do it. And again, it's one of those rules that everyone says, well, of course, duh. Okay, well, now you're an anarchist. If you actually believe that, because everybody who votes does it because they want government to do something they're not allowed to. And the flip side of that is people will say things like, well, without government, nobody would stop the murderers. And I say, really? You wouldn't? You would sit there. If somebody was attacking you, you'd say, well, we don't have politicians and nobody has a badge, so I guess I'm just going to sit here and let them kill me.
Yeah.
Or would you defend yourself and defend others? I would.
I would
And
too.
everyone says, well, I would, but maybe somebody else wouldn't. Well, how come everybody who votes for government says, I do this because I don't trust everybody else?
Yeah.
I want security and safety and the poor to be cared for and protection against this, but I don't trust everybody else. So let's all go vote for a parasitical ruling class to do what we obviously all want because they won the election. Why don't you just do it yourself instead of being somebody's slave?
Yeah, and the thing about the police is they're often not there when you're there experiencing a crime. It's like you've got to go to the police station, you've got to get one of them or three of them, and you've got to get them away from whatever other tasks they're doing. It's like we all have to sort of look after ourselves to an extent. And, you know, there's no reason why we wouldn't still help each other after a crime in a voluntary society. We'd gather together the men to go over there and sort out what happened with this or that, or, you know, we'd do what people have done for millions of years.
Right, and it's just, no state doesn't mean no organization and no cooperation. It just means you have the same rights as everybody else. We have the right to defend ourselves, so we can organize to do that. But government enforcers imagine they have special rights. Yeah, the reason the cops aren't there when you need them if somebody's committing a crime against you is probably because they're somewhere else committing a crime against somebody else, because they're the aggressors. The state steals a heck of a lot more than anybody else does. In the U.S., it kidnaps a heck of a lot more people than anybody else does. There are 1 million some people in prison for victimless crimes. That's kidnapping.
Oh, I think there's a lot of very naughty marijuana smokers over there.
Right, exactly.
That's it. And then they get you to work for 10 cents a day, and of course they want everyone in jail.
Right. Great little military-industrial complex racket they got going. But the idea that you have to give special authority for us to do what we all have the right to do is inherently contradictory. All you're doing when you do that is give certain people permission to be evil. Literally, that's all authority does, is it adds immoral violence into society. And that's it. Wow. Because what's inherently moral, you don't need a badge to do. Yeah. You don't need legislation. You don't need anything.
Wow. And so how did you meet your partner? And were you just thinking commonly like that? Or do is it from going to open your mind conferences, free your mind conferences? Or were you friends for a long time? Did you evolve together or separately?
She was actually my best friend's sister, which is never supposed to work out, but
that
it actually...
That is so sexy.
We were both basically, sort of conservative, libertarian leaning, and we still don't know which one got to anarchism first. We sort of would nudge ourselves along and discuss things and again, just whittle away contradictions until we both fell off the statist spectrum entirely. But that took years, and I'm sort of embarrassed because now I see people doing it in weeks or months, sometimes days. It took me years and years and years to accept the obvious. And the same with Tessa, as we both slowly went through that journey until we realized there isn't, we went through the whole minarchist thing of we just want a government to do these few things. And I would, try to justify my own statism by saying, well, military is so important that it's okay that other people are forcibly robbed and threatened with being imprisoned to pay for it. And the same thing with the police. And then I'd have to look at it and say, well, yeah, that's kind of insane to say you should be robbed so you can be protected, which is the basis of conservative politics. Is we need to violently rob you in order to protect you.
It's very similar. Yeah. It's very similar to we must kill people or they might kill us.
Right.
Exactly. A lot of our logic's based on that kind of insanity in our cultures.
Yeah, and I used to believe that, and it's pretty embarrassing. And it's embarrassing that it took me years to just accept that when you remove all the contradictions, government does not fit in the equation anywhere anymore. Because all it is a thing with the right to do evil stuff. We don't need a thing with the right to do evil stuff. Whether people are inherently good or bad or a combination or whatever, giving some people permission to commit evil is not going to help. That it's no more complicated than that.
I love it. You make me feel so clear-headed just hanging out and talking. And so with your, your daughter's probably going to grow up and she's probably going to be like a head sheriff or something like that.
Tax collector.
A tax collector. Yeah. Oh, well, that's all right. I know you still love her. But so is it your full-time job now to go around and speak and give insight about this to masses of people?
Yeah, I decided that after they robbed us blind and stuck me in a cage for a year and stuck Tessa in a cage for a month for the crime of being married to me.
Oh, no.
Yep. Not at the same time. We had our daughter Elissa, by the way.
I know, that's a cool name. And she's going to be trouble, and she'll be a pain in the ass to her father and her mother. But you can't go wrong calling your kid Elissa.
Right. Now, somebody we know once told us, we think Elissa might have a problem with authority. Yes, outstanding. We did our job.
Yeah. No, my dad brought me up this way. I mean, he's clearly an anarchist in his own weird way, but he wouldn't know it if you tried to explain it to him. But he's always had that fuck 'em kind of attitude, which I really like. And I admired it from a really young age. And I think one of the things you say is that we are all... A lot of us, 80-90% of us without knowing it, we are anarchists, but we don't call ourselves that because we don't own a balaclava. We don't go running through the streets and smashing shit up. So I'm like, I'm not an anarchist. But actually,
right.
This is why I mean the word voluntarist is so sweet, because most of us recognize that we have to want to do whatever it is that we do in this world, whatever we put our energy towards, we have to want to put it there, or otherwise it's not going to be very good energy.
Right, and I often say that a lot of people are what I call default anarchists, which is they are that, they just don't know the terminology and haven't thought it through yet. But they believe in disobeying authority when it tells you to do bad stuff. They believe in self-ownership. They believe in freedom. And most of what they hear anywhere in the media and in school, the option that's closest in that direction is let's have a little parasitical violent ruling class.
Yeah.
And they never hear, well, have none.
Or let's have a better one. The one we've got at the moment is just not quite good. We need a new one.
Right. We just have the wrong guy on the throne.
Yeah.
One of my videos is called "If You Were King." Like, if you were in charge of the world, think how great it would be, and goes through why. No, actually, it wouldn't be. And if you were in charge, the first thing you should do is quit and stop trying to be in charge. But it's just, there are so many people who are leaning in that direction, but have just never heard it explained. Basically didn't know it was a philosophy. It was just sort of a gut feeling that something's horribly wrong and I'm not beholden to these psychos. And then when they see it put into a comprehensive, set of principles, then they go, oh yeah, duh, that's what I've been my whole life. I just kind of didn't know it yet. And I've met thousands of people who did that and who, a little embarrassed to say, who went through the process a heck of a lot faster than I did. They'll do it in a few weeks and go, oh, yeah, duh. I'm like, well, why did it take me 10 years to do that? Oh, well, so now my penance is to go out and try to nudge other people a little faster through the unindoctrination process.
And I noticed that you've said many times, like, that often people, you sort of like kick them over the edge by just having these discussions with them. I've seen on a few videos of yours where you're like giving a talk in a pub or a restaurant kind of situation, and you get some feisty hecklers, and I like that. You need that. I mean, we all need that so that we can learn where our arguments may need more refining or where we may still be unsure of things. But I guess when you've written a book, you've kind of inscribed it in yourself. It's in your soul, or maybe it came out of that and now it's out in the world. So you must be sort of feeling confident. And I'd say you're one of the most sought after speakers on the subject that I know about in the world.
And to me, the main frustration is that the best way I know to do it is actually not by saying stuff, it's by asking questions. And it's hard to do an interactive questioning thing with a billion people at a time. You can write a book and send it to a bunch of people can watch a video or read a book. But really the most fun, and I sort of want to do like a statist intervention series, but I'm not quite sure how to do it yet, to go through the conversation with people, because it's really because the belief in statism is inherently contradictory. It's not just, I want it this way, you want it that way, and we throw rocks at each other. It's that there is nobody who believes in government who is consistent inside their own head. Nobody. And I wasn't when I believed in it either. And because of that, and I've sort of developed this way of, they're very simple lines of questioning that will lead anybody who still believes in government to the contradictions inside their own head. And it's interesting to watch because I don't have to say anything. I don't have to assert anything. Some people will still get mad at me and will say, wait, so far all we've done is ask you what you think. Why are you mad at me? I haven't even said anything. Because once...
Yeah, go. Sorry.
And I did this myself. This is the process I went through myself. Once they see the contradiction in themselves coming up, they get scared and they start to think, yeah, that doesn't match. What do I do? And sometimes I'll just say, well, get back to me sometime if you want to think about it, or, we can keep arguing now, or whatever you want to do. But just simple lines of questioning to show the contradictions in somebody's head, because nobody wants to say, well, I believe A, but I also believe B, and the two can't possibly coexist. And that is always the case with statists. Yeah. Everybody who believes in government has contradictory ideas inside their own head. And when they're gone, so is the statism, and suddenly you're an anarchist. I didn't even get to be an anarchist by deciding that it would be better to not have a government than to have one. I got there the way you get to realizing Santa isn't real. There's no Santa Claus, so there isn't. It's not, I want to abolish Santa. I'm not going to go to the North Pole and overthrow him. I just want people to grasp the fact that he's not real. And we better start dealing with life as if he's not real, or really stupid things are going to happen.
And a lot of people react like you have told them Santa is not real when you tell them the government's not real. They're like, no, Santa's not real. It's really hard for us all. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's provable, just like Santa. It's logically provable that government cannot be legitimate. It's not just a matter of, on a practical level, it's destructive and evil, although it always is. Just on a basic conceptual level, it's really easy to prove. And my book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, does it in 3 different ways in the span of like 2 pages.
Yes.
Oh, in fact, I have a video called The Whole Problem and Solution in 2 minutes.
Oh, I've got to watch that. I haven't seen that. Larken, we have to go to a break, and we're going to go to another one of your clips when we come back. But thank you for hanging out. But the point you made there was great. Creditors ask questions, debtors make statements. So I love what you said about just ask questions of people. We'll come back in a moment. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up.
Deep in the mountains of New Hampshire, for 1 week every year, lawlessness reigns.
Hello! Hey! Would you like a beer?
Hundreds of strangers of different backgrounds and cultures thrown together, and no law enforcement around to keep things civilized. For 1 week, the fringe elements of humanity run amok. Kooks and weirdos with no respect for authority, and guns everywhere. Mankind's true nature unleashed, unrestrained by any government. For 1 week, a glimpse at the horror and chaos, carnage, mayhem, and anarchy that would ensue if there were no politicians, tax collectors, bureaucrats, and cops around to keep everyone in line. Will anyone survive the porkage?
Rated PG-13. Some material may be existentially disturbing to conformist dupes who still believe the state is propaganda.
Absolutely shocking and scary, isn't it? The violence, the predatory nature of humans. As soon as there are no police around, we just want to eat each other. Well, not really, do we?
Not exactly. Apparently not.
Well, I always say if you've ever been to a music festival with 100,000 people for 5 days and there's about 3 police there, we don't all kill each other. We don't all run into each other's tents and steal each other's stuff, you know. In fact, actually, people are pretty good in general if they're not squabbling over the small amount of spoils we're allowed to share.
Right, and it's ridiculous that everybody says we need government because they don't trust everybody else. Well, if everybody says that, like a society of nasty, evil people would not appoint a group of people to make them be nice. Exactly. The only reason people want that is because they want to be nice to begin with, in which case you don't need that, especially because all you do when you create a government is tell some people, like I said before, you guys don't have to be nice. You're allowed to rob us and boss us around and cage us for non-violent things. But the fact that that gets fed by feeding people's fears about their neighbors and feeding the distrust, and then the insane contradiction of saying, I don't trust people, therefore let's give some of them the power to control everybody else. Or is it because they're better than us? And the funny thing is everybody knows that politicians are worse than the general public. So I don't trust people in general, so let's give the worst people around lots of power over everybody else, because that'll help.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just so ridiculous, and you just make it seem so clear. So how was it with you, with your family, extended family and friends, when you first started to awaken? Did you argue with everyone or some people, or were you in a group of people who already all thought this way, or did you lose friends?
I can't really say I lost any. I argued with lots and lots of people, but it was interesting because I've been an anarchist now for 17 years, and 10 years ago I knew maybe 3, maybe 6 people who would call themselves that. Now I know at least 6,000.
Wow.
And so I've got to watch this amazing progress. And I'm not taking credit. I'm not pretending this was just my doing.
You should, mate, because you've probably helped a lot of people more than you know. So take some credit there.
Well, I've done what I can. I may never know, how much or how little an effect I have. But to be where it used to be that if you said that, almost everybody would freak out and say, you're insane and evil. And now it's funny because I see a lot of minarchists who are defensive. They're like apologetic about the fact that they still advocate a little tiny state. Well, we just want, instead of you're evil and you should burn in hell because you don't want government at all. So it's been amazing to watch the massive shift going on. I mean, the majority is still indoctrinated statists, but this is spreading like wildfire, and a lot faster than it was 17 years ago, where there were, 3 people I could talk to about it who wouldn't think I was the root of all evil. And now it's all over the place. And now, here we are on your show talking about it. And so far, nobody's lynched either of us.
Yeah, I know. And look, I can't wait to die anyway, so I'm up for it. But anyway, it's the raising vibration of humanity. It's our own evolution. It's inescapable. It's just the cleansing of a whole heap of shit that's been filling up our minds. Really.
Yeah, it really is an idea whose time has come.
Yeah.
I think there really is such a thing where it seems like the whole species suddenly gets to the point where they can think about something that they've never thought about before. Yeah. And it's, it can't happen fast enough for me, especially with the wars and all the mayhem and death and destruction going on. But it's, 17 years ago, I would have said, well, I'm going to spend the rest of my life screaming at a brick wall and nobody's going to pay attention. And it's been so amazing to suddenly see the world start to shift in the direction of actual humanity, which is a voluntary, peaceful, stateless society. And we got a long way to go. And there's, like I said, the majority is still statist, but the discussion has begun, and people don't get burned at the stake for the discussion anymore. And when it comes down to a discussion and a battle of ideas, statism is doomed. It's the stupidest, most immoral, irrational idea in the history of the world. If we're to the point where we can debate it, statism is finished.
It's old world, it's ye oldie goney. Yes, well, that is wonderful. Look, I could talk to you for days, but we have a caller on the line, so we're going to go to them. And you've agreed to hang around for a while and chat with us, Larken?
Sure, yep.
Thank you so much. Do we have Bob there?
Good morning, darling.
Oh, my love. Bob, I'm so glad you're alive. You put out a bit of a scary Facebook status the other day because Bob lives on a yacht, Larken, up in the Whitsunday Passage in Australia, which is like heaven on earth. And he's one of our wise, he calls regularly to the show, and he gives us a lot of genius sort of insights. So it's nice to still have you with us, Bob.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here.
And do you know Larken Rose, Bob?
No. Sounds Larken Rose, Larken Rose. Good title for a song.
Good name for a band. I might start a band called Larken Rose just to up you.
Can I get some of the proceeds?
Absolutely. We'll give you...
G'day, Larken. How are you?
Good.
And do you want to ask Larken anything about voluntarism? You sound like a voluntarist to me, Bob, living there on your boat.
I'm not sure what the term means.
It just means you want to volunteer what you want to volunteer, and you don't want to be coerced into anything by any external authority that believes it has authority over you.
Okay. Well, I'll give you my take on that.
Good.
Because, all I can ever do is share my story, share my truth. That's all I know. And I believe we're all sovereign.
Of course.
And we're all magnificent. And we're all knowing, So nobody has jurisdiction over me, and I have no jurisdiction over anybody else.
I love you, Bob.
That's a pretty good definition of voluntarism.
Yeah, that's a voluntarist. Exactly.
Yeah, and for me, it's all about conscious living, and I know who I am, and I know I am sovereign, and my sovereignty does not depend on the existence or non-existence of some piece of paper.
Exactly.
It just comes from my inner knowing. I know who I am, and I wish I could sort of, just share it with everybody, because if I can do it, anybody can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually feel the same way. I just cannot pay fines. I cannot pay taxes. I cannot vote. It's the same as me going down to the shopping mall at Christmas time and putting in a vote with Santa. I know Santa can't do anything about my dreams and wishes. So it's the same for me. I won't go to a polling booth in any country, anywhere. And the ways that I have to be not complying, that's just my soul's acceptance that stuff is all bullshit. Is that how it is for you, Larken?
Yeah, and the term I use for individual sovereignty is self-ownership, which is the same thing. And it's just when you see that, you can't play the game anymore. People have to pick their battles and decide what they're willing to get tased for and things like that.
Yeah.
But the legitimacy evaporates, and nothing will bring it back. It's the individual sovereignty, to use his term for it. It's just a natural, obvious thing, and it takes a massive amount of indoctrination to train kids to stop seeing themselves as self-owning, sovereign individuals, and to train them to think that they're beholden to some authority, whether it's a teacher or a government or whatever it is, or a church. And so it's the most obvious truth is, okay, I'm in charge of me. I own myself. And it's why it takes years and years and years of indoctrination camps to train people to not see that bleeding obvious reality, is because it's so obvious, it's so self-evident that you have to get the kids when they're young and jam them into these camps and bash into their heads. You don't really own yourself. You're beholden to your representative servant government, all this bizarre mythology we're taught, just so they lose sight of the fact that they own themselves.
Yeah, and Bob, is that one of the reasons why you live out on a boat? Does it enhance your freedom? Or, I mean, obviously you have these inner knowing, whether you live in a house or a boat or wherever, but is that, like, how did you come to be, to know this, Bob?
I think actually moving on to the boat was not a conscious thing. It was just following my inner knowing, following my intuition. But being on the boat has put me in a pretty unique position because for the last 4 years, there are no man sounds. So I have a natural silence around me, and I'm very close to nature, and, I'm rocked to sleep by Mother Nature. And it's the silence that I've manifested in my life that has allowed all this stuff to come in. I really agree with what Larken was saying. It's all about personal accountability for me. I am totally responsible for everything in my life. My wants and needs, the life I manifest, I am totally responsible for that. And if I want to know what my right is, and I only have one right, and everything else stems from that, I just have to look at a tree, or a dolphin, or a cedar, and my right is the same as their right. The right to thrive unfettered by anything except natural law. And for me, that means where do I fit in the food chain? If I jump in the ocean and get eaten by a shark, well, fair go. That's where they live. But I know my rights, and I live by them. And I have challenged the system. I've fronted up to the banks in Australia, and they know that I know that they know that I know that they're frauds.
Defrauding everyone, yeah.
Yeah, I've beaten them, and there's some great guys in the UK doing a lot of beautiful work around that, at getoutofdebtfree.org.
Getoutofdebtfree.org. They're a great site, great templates and great information.
Yeah.
Lee Whitterick is his name, yeah, and a few others. It's a big group of people. They're great. Getoutofdebtfree.org. And what about in the States, Larken? What kind of websites do you recommend people go to besides larkenrose.com if they want to explore this stuff more?
Well, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's Stefan Molyneux.
He's great, yeah.
Who's a Canadian with a French accent. with a British accent.
Yeah.
He has a million great things if you really want to get in depth and understanding of voluntarism. And there are things like the Free State Project. There's a Freedom Summit that's about to happen in Arizona. And there are a bunch of events that happen, and there are lots and lots more voluntarists and anarchists than there were. It's funny to watch, like PorcFest, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, PorcFest for short, to be able to watch that over the years, because I had been to, I think, 7 in a row. And at the beginning, there's this little group of people who don't want a state at all, and then there's a whole bunch of people who want a limited ruling class. And now it's the other direction. There's a few people sort of apologetically hanging on to their little bit of statism, and it's mostly anarchist. And to see a lot of public figures and see them go through that process in public, where they started as minarchists and then they got worn away until they realized, I can't advocate the state at all. And they come out the other end and say, it's all bogus. We own ourselves, and there isn't such thing as a political solution any more than you can cure your body with a hand grenade. It just doesn't work that way.
Yes.
So it's all over the place now.
I think that's how it sort of eventually comes down to this in life. It's like, well, you can sort of believe in one concept and then sort of believe in another, but as you grow and get older, you sort of start to go, well, if this is true, this can't be true.
Right. One or the other. So which is it? You got to pick one.
Yeah.
And again, that's all I did, in my own really slow, stupid journey to get here, is realize, well, either it's not okay to rob people for their own good, or it is. And if it's not okay, then I shouldn't be advocating that it be done for the things that I want. If I don't want those political people robbing me for the things I'm against, then I probably shouldn't rob them for the things they're against. I mean, just painfully obvious stuff. And just, it's one or the other. That's what the contradictions come down to, is there's A or B and they don't match. You got to pick one. And as long as you keep removing the contradictions, you end up with the truth. You don't have to make it hugely complicated. Just remove the things in your head that contradict the other things in your head.
Yes. Is that, why are you laughing, Bob? It's clarity.
Oh dear.
I know it's 5 a.m. in Australia. I'm so impressed you woke up to call in. You're my hero.
No, I try and catch every sunrise and every sunset. It really puts me in my place in the grand scheme of things, and it's such a majestic way to start the day. My take on that is the left brain, this monkey chatter, little computer that we've got up there. For me, that is just a tool that I use when I choose, and I have mastery of that, and I turn it off when I don't need it, because I get more of my truth from just sitting silently with my inner knowing. And I came across.
Bob, we've got to go to a break in 10 seconds. Sorry, I've got someone yelling in my ear. Thanks, Jules. Bob, I'm really sorry, but I felt like we need to hear this in a relaxed way. We'll be back in a minute. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Welcome back to Wakey Wakey. We're joined here by Larken Rose and the infamous Bob. Bob, do you want me to tell him your last name?
Yeah, I have no problems with that. Eden,
Bob Eden, what a legend. So continue on with what you were saying before the break, Bob, if you don't mind.
Hang on. I'll just take the squeaky toy off Barnaby, because he's...
Barnaby's his dog.
What was I saying?
We were talking...
we were talking... I've got it. The left brain. For me, the left brain is just a tool that I use when I choose, and I have mastery of that. Just like every other aspect of me, I just view them as tools that I use when I choose. So I turn the left brain off, unless I have a need for it. And since I've sort of developed that skill, I'm able to sit, just in my silence and inner knowing, and lots of great stuff comes through. A phrase that came through the other day was just brilliant. Eckhart Tolle, and this one's magnificent. This should be carved on every wall in the world.
I thought you were going to say every human's forehead.
We'll put a barcode there next to the chip implant. Anyway, the quote from Eckhart Tolle was, "Totally let go of the need to understand anything." Totally let go of the need to understand anything. Because, I look at a flower and, wow, it's a flower, it's beautiful. I don't, I'm not worried about what genus it is or the stamens, this blah, 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 blah. For me, the mind is a distraction, and it's a distraction from our chance, our opportunity to connect with our inner knowing.
And our hearts. And I actually think there's so much in that. Like, they baffle us with bullshit. And that's why I think, this is for you too, Larken, that it's really hard for us to find our feelings on these subjects for years and years and years, because we are dealing with our thinkings about, if we don't have authorities, might happen, and this might happen, and this might happen. And it's like, well, it might happen. But it can't be that much worse than the way we're handling life on Earth as a species right now.
Right.
I don't see dolphins worried or whales worried. I don't see them stressing out with their time managers and they're just totally in the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
Hey, we're just another species. That the answers are all around us, and our forebears, the tribal people, they knew how to communicate. The talking stick. Let's all just get back to the talking stick.
Yeah.
Sit around in a circle and everybody share their truth. Because everybody will, because they know it's a safe forum.
I've always been one to bash everyone over the head with the talking stick and then pretend it's a microphone and dance in front of the mirror with it. And I'm a nightmare. It's sort of true, though, isn't it? And do you feel that way, Larken, like that we are cooperative if we just have some simple method, like here's the talking stick, you talk when you've got the stick, then I'll talk, and we'll just speak through this until we've gone through all the aspects of the argument, and then we'll come to some conclusion.
Yeah, and I deal with the intellectual, logical side of stuff a whole lot, but really what it comes down to is we have inside ourselves everything we need. Our conscience, our moral code comes from there. And it's almost always true that the deceptions and the enslavement come from playing with the intellect and deceiving it in all these twisted ways. Like, somebody filling out their tax return, I say, do you really think that you need to read thousands of pages and do this to be a moral person? I mean, does your inside really tell you that to be a good person, I have to fill out a Schedule C and a Schedule SE and a 1040A and a... Yeah. Like, does that feel like being a good person to you?
A lot of people do get off on that stuff. I remember when I was young, I got this sort of sense of satisfaction when I faced those 10 pages of boring shit and filled them out. And, I sort of got off on it. In a way, I was kind of like, oh, I'm a grown-up. Look at me go. Oh, I'm just like mum and dad. But then over the years, you start realizing, well, I'd rather cook, I'd rather read, I'd rather play guitar, I'd rather do anything but read this boring shit. And it's like they're stealing your life off you. And, I actually think when I sense a need around me from anyone, if I have what can help them fulfill their need, I'll give it. And people do that for me all the time as well. And so I think that we have this within us, this urge to help, and that we don't need to be told how much to pay when, and the idea that no one will help anyone if we don't steal it off them.
Right, which is a huge lie the tyrants live off of, is we're all untrustworthy and evil and malicious and stupid and everything else. We couldn't possibly get along if not for them being so nice that they're managing society for us. And it's just the most gigantic lie that, and part of people seems to totally understand it. I mean, if you ask people, do you think politicians make the world better? Nobody says yes. Well, then why do you want them to have power? Well, we kind of need, they speak of it as if it's some unfortunate necessity because they've been convinced that we're all stupid and evil and only by the good graces of a ruling class do we even know how to be civilized, which is the exact opposite of the truth. Yes. A ruling class is the opposite of civilization. It's violent domination. Exactly. Civilization is peaceful coexistence.
Bob, is that why you live out on a boat? Do you get the shits with society? Do you get pulled over by the cops? Or are you living in a small town and everyone knows you and they go, oh, Bob's all right, leave him alone? Or why do you like to live out there on the water besides to be in nature?
I'm Cancerian. Also, I'm a ship's captain, and under maritime law, anybody that tries to come on board is a pirate. So,
I think we've lost Bob. Oh, unfortunately, we've lost Bob for it now. He might call back. Oh. But he's a really cool guy, hey, Larken. He's just got that sovereignty flowing out of him. You can hear it.
I'm very envious.
Yeah. Oh, you'll be living on a boat one day, I'm sure. Elissa will buy you a boat.
Maybe as a fugitive or something. I'd settle for that.
Well, I'll be moored next to you, so I'll throw cans of soup over and stuff like that. And so, Larken, has it been for you, what's been the process? Are you afraid of anything anymore? I mean, you mustn't be that afraid. You're taking on the most massive system machine there is on the planet with gusto.
There are things I hope don't happen, like me getting killed and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's an amazing freeing that comes with accepting self-ownership.
Oh, it's
and
worth
realizing, I think there's a Robert Heinlein quote. I'd mess it up if I tried to do it. But basically, the worst they can do to me is kill me, but they will never own me again. Oh. And that is so much more freeing than feeling beholden to any master that I don't, death, I hope it comes later rather than sooner, but I'm not anybody's slave. And I tell people, when I was in a cage for a year, I was still freer than most of the world because I understood that I own myself. Most of the people on the outside haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
And the reason I do what I do is because I want them to figure that out, to release the goodness and humanity that's in them, because I don't want anybody to be a slave. And the ultimate weirdness is I don't even want the people in power to be slaves to this. I want them to be free.
Absolutely.
And they usually want horrible things to happen for saying that. But the people with badges and uniforms, put it down, go be a human being, start being moral, start being responsible, because you don't have to be a slave to this either.
And empower yourself to create a new life. If that's the only job you've ever done, if that's what your father and grandfather did, then try something different. I would subjugate myself. I would do a shittier job. I would do anything just to change it up a bit, because must be incredibly hard on the soul of somebody to fulfill these horrible duties that the government inflicts on people, because you have the backing of the government, because your soul is still the one responsible at the end of the day. If you're an asshole to a human being just because that's what the law says, you're the one who has to take that to your deathbed, to your grave, to live with it every day of your life. You're the one that's going to show on your face, you know, who you are and how you've treated your brother and your sister. So I feel so much for those people. In fact, I want to mention your Josie the Outlaw series stuff that you're doing at the moment, Larken, with Josie on YouTube. Stuff like Message to the Police. What are the other ones?
Why Good People Should Be Armed was one of the early ones. There's When Resistance Becomes Duty.
Yes.
And then there was On Being an Outlaw, which is a good introduction to basically why conscience matters more than obedience to a ruling class. We just came out with one called A Prison by Any Other Name, about the education system, as in the authoritarian indoctrination system. And there's one about jury nullification. And
we're going to go to a break, but we'll talk about this more after the break. But can I just ask you beforehand, did you write these scripts, or are they Josie's? Because I can hear your language in there. Maybe it's just because I've listened to so much of you.
A lot of people assume it's mine because they don't yet know Josie.
But she's
Josie
cool.
and I, we co-write all of it. And it's amazing how many times we say the same things in the same way. We only met like less than a year ago for the first time. And she didn't get it from me, but it happens to match perfectly. So it's both of our message.
Okay, we've got to go to a break, but just hold, please, Larken. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll be back. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Hi, welcome back to Wakey Wakey. We are interviewing Larken Rose, and hopefully we'll have Bob back from the Wit Sundays. Bob Eden, thanks for calling in if we don't hear back from you. So Larken, this stuff you're doing with Josie, it's wonderful, and it's going to attract a whole new audience. And, you know, it's great to see a ballsy young woman, and it's great to see that information coming out of a woman giving a message to the police saying, I don't accept your authority, gently but lovingly, but seriously. And these police, how must they feel about doing their jobs, knowing that our consciousness as one is rising?
Well, it's amazing because a lot of current and former police have responded very positively to it, because it basically, the main point of the video is, you know, at what point are you going to draw a line and say, I'm not going to enforce that. I'm not going to do that to another human being. And I think a lot of badge wearers, they don't have a line. They'll do what the Nazis did and what Stalin's thugs did and what the rest of them did. And, well, I'm just obeying orders, so you can't blame me. But we want to give people an opportunity to be human. You know, they have a badge, but there's still a human being in there somewhere. And I've been happy about how many people in law enforcement in response to that. You know, some say, well, I'm not sure I totally agree, but you do have a point. To see the humanity coming out, and the whole Josie the Outlaw project. First of all, Josie herself was entirely the inspiration. I met her, and I wanted her to help me with a different project. And after talking to her a while, I said, let's get you out there, because your message is more important than the thing I was going to do right now, because it gets to a whole lot more people, and we're seeing it get to a whole lot of people who I'd never gotten to. I mean, she had, after a month, she had 500,000 video views.
Yeah.
She already has, I've been on YouTube for 4.5 years. She has way more YouTube subscribers than I do after a month.
Yeah, that's cool. I think maybe she's less threatening as a woman, or who knows. And
Yeah.
she's young too. I mean,
So
she's
cute.
beautiful as well, and that always helps because we love to hear from people who are sort of self-possessed.
Yeah, and she's confident. She knows what she's talking about. She believes in it. She's passionate, but it's presented rationally and politely, and she doesn't scream at people and things like that, except when they deserve it. But
Yeah.
it seems to be working really well because our goal from the beginning is, it's one thing to talk with people who are already like-minded. There's 7 billion people out there who need to be unleashed. They need their humanity set free from the chains of authoritarianism. So our goal was to let's make a message that can get to the other 7 billion who haven't thought about this. And we're not at 7 billion yet.
Yeah.
But I've been very happy with how quickly it's spreading and being reposted by people all over the place so far. And I think very quickly she's going to dwarf me, and people say, "I've never heard of Larken Rose," but Josie, yeah, she's awesome.
No one could dwarf you, Larken. I don't care what
She
you
already
say.
is, and I'm happy about it. I love
know
it.
you are, and
she's
that's
a
what makes
better-
me love you even more. No,
she's
you're
a
fine.
better ambassador to voluntarism to the rest of the world than anybody I know. And after meeting her, it quickly occurred to me, you're the one who should be out there.
Well, that's
And
what
she doesn't even like the camera. I don't know if I should even say this. She doesn't even like being in front of a camera. She's not someone
doing
who's in
it
it for
ego.
glory.
Yeah.
But she believes in this, and she's
She's
an
changing the
amazing
world.
messenger. She
Yeah, and
is.
I'm glad she has you as her supporter and helper because together you've made something wonderful. And
I'm glad I got to help.
we have Bob back again from the boat. Thanks for calling back, Bob. I don't know what happened. We probably had some problem in the technology. But Bob, you are for me one of these people who is living it. You're living your truth. You're living your own anarchy or your own freedom. And you can hear it in your voice. You can hear it when you make a 1 or 2 or 3 word comment on my Facebook. There's so much that you are giving out and changing people just by being yourself. Are you there, Bob? Can you hear me?
Yeah. And for me, I truly believe it's the way forward. If everybody could just get to their inner knowing, more people that find that place and just let their light shine, then that feeling is like contagious. And I experience that every day of my life. When I go ashore, I just greet people. The next person in my community is the next person I meet on the street. And so it's, g'day here. It's going to be a ripper, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just connect with everybody I meet, and you can see it, in their demeanour. They move from sort of a long face with dull eyes to, a little grin and a sparkle and a skip in their step.
Yeah,
Like
you're getting
running-
into their soul.
That like, yeah, and you can't do that through the mind. There's no way that's going to happen by going through the mind.
It's
a
true.
heart-to-heart connection.
You
Me, anyway.
For a man, and I don't want this to sound sexist, but for a man, you've taught me a lot about coming from my heart and speaking my truth, and you're just a wonderful being. I love you.
Oh, we're all wonderful. We're all wonderful, and I don't think that anybody needs healing, because there's nothing wrong with anybody. I think mankind has just got to learn to reconnect with their inner knowing, because
We know
for me,
it,
it's
exactly.
where all the answers are there. They're all there, and they're all simple, and that's been my experience.
Thank you,
As I
Bob.
said,
Well,
Let
our show's nearly up, so we actually have to go, Bob, but thank you for coming, and thank you for meeting Larken and sharing some time with us.
No
Good to
worries.
meet you, Bob.
No worries. It's been an honour and a privilege, and I look forward to catching up with you.
Bob, when I'm back in Australia in a month,
Paradise.
I'm going to bloody ring you, and I'll probably get on my push bike and ride up there and come and swim out to your boat. Can't wait.
Love you, darling.
I will.
Love you. All the best,
I
Larkin.
really will come and visit you. You've been a gem.
Love you,
Okay,
Larkin.
thanks
Good
for the
on you, mate.
call, love. We'll speak soon.
Yeah, I'd just like to say one thing in closing. I'd just like to thank you all for your greatest gift, and that is your time and your attention. Namaste.
Namaste, my brother. Now, Larken, before we finish, do you want to tell? Let's promote your books, your favorite stuff that you are proudest of, and tell people larkenrose.com. Look at Larken's YouTube channel. What else do you want to tell people about Larken that you've got in the pipeline or that you've created that you're proud of? Or
well, I'd say the most important thing I've ever written is the book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, which I'm thrilled by how many people have read that, including people already in the freedom movement who said, well, I didn't really think I'd get anything, but whoa, the world suddenly changed in my eyes. And again, this isn't because I'm so wise. It's just because I went through the process slowly myself, and I'm trying to, nudge others through it, just like other people nudge me through it.
Yeah. I'm buying your book for somebody for Christmas. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to just hand it on, of course. But I really, for Christmas, that's months away. But you know what I mean. I can't wait to go through the nitty-gritty of your work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, go on.
YouTube videos, I think, are a really fun way to start people in the direction of thinking without, because if you say, here's a 200-page philosophy treatise, people go, no thanks, I'm kind of busy. But a 5 or 10 minute video, people can handle. So my YouTube channel is just youtube.com/Larken Rose, and then the josietheoutlaw.com, and that's youtube.com/josieoutlaw. There, because we made them to share around with the rest of the world, people who haven't thought about this, who don't necessarily know the terminology, who are, freshly indoctrinated and have never heard that there's another option, and just little things to nudge people in the direction. Because ultimately, people choose for themselves what they're going to believe, what they're going to be, what they're going to do. And so it's really just an invitation that you don't have to be in the cage of statism. There's something better. And just every little nudge we can come up with, and different things work for different people. My books, I have a novel called The Iron Web that a lot of people have said is a rather hefty nudge, a little bit like a 2x4 to the head.
Yeah.
So that may be more than a nudge, but there's a lot of little videos that are a good way to start. And like I said, there's mine, there's Stefan Molyneux's, and
we've got to go, Larken. We've got 30 seconds left, and I'd love to talk to you more. Hopefully we'll speak again one day in future. Thank you so much for being our guest and bringing your clarity and for shining your light for millions, if not billions, that you are ultimately going to reach through someone or other. Just by honoring your own truth, I really admire you, and I just want to say thanks for being wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Larken. And thanks to everyone for watching Wakey Wakey. It's my pleasure to host, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Who are these people all around me? They are my teachers and my heroes. What are they doing? What are they saying? They're speaking truth, and they are playing with my worldview. These ways of seeing make me feel better. They are so freeing. We do not need this power structure. All we need is one another. Heart to heart, heart to heart. All we must do is love our brothers and our sisters, and our mamas, and our friends, and our papas, and our enemies, and our biggest fears. It's time to give up. It's time.